I always think you miss all the best bits when you don't record it straight away on a podcast.
You carry on recording, mate.
You can only chat to someone first, and then you go, I miss that.
It's all right, because like you'd be a terrible spy. Be like, I'm just going to start recording now. That's what I'm going to do. Well, I'm a comedian, stand-up comedian. So I've performed ever since I was 16 years old. I did my first gig in Dorsetshire at the age of 16. I went on stage at a club. It was back then, which is about 15, 20 years ago. Back then, it was there weren't many comedy clubs, and the only way that you found out, like the Bournemouth Evening Echo had a little advert saying, "Do you think you could do stand-up comedy?" And I just answered that. And then I went on stage. I wasn't legally allowed in the pub, so I had to go into the back room on my own. And the guy that was hosting it was called Mr. Jug, and his name was Chris McCall, but he called himself Mr. Tobias Jug, which I think is something to do with breasts. And the guy that was before me was a character act called Eric Shun, right? Eric Shun. I'll repeat that. His stage name was Eric Shun, which was a pun that I only got about 2 years later. I was walking down the road going, what? Oh, erection. Anyway, I just didn't presume that somebody would have a stage name. And yeah, that first day I was somebody that was, because I was so I looked quite young. So I was 16 and I was telling puns, and I think people just really liked it and just start laughing. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. I've taken 17 shows to the Edinburgh Festival. I performed around the world. I've done gigs in Hawaii. A regular gig in Scandinavia because I look Scandinavian, maybe.
That's funny with the hair and the beard.
Precisely. I'm looking as Viking as possible, trying to close that market. And yeah, I also, in 2010, I started a comedy club called Angel Comedy, which is for comedians that went on to become something. It just grew and grew. And now it's like Eddie Izzard created his last show there pretty much exclusively. His last world tour. We've got Stuart Lee coming next month. We've got Nish Kumar coming next month when we open up. Mae Martin. We had Maria Bamford, who's like a world-renowned. Louis C.K. came along when it was good to have Louis C.K. in a comedy show, and it wasn't like, oh no, is he going to whip his cock out? Yeah.
So your comedy club's in London, isn't it, Barry? For people that want to know where it is.
It's called Angel Comedy, right? And it's an Angel Islington. See what we did there? Like, yeah. But I mean, I'm not there all the time. I host there often, but I'm not there all the time because I'm out touring and being on the road. And I've done bits of TV work, but I don't do a huge amount of TV work. I'm not a great fan of. I did one. I've written a bit of stuff for TV, and I did one pilot for a driving show about 3 years ago, and I don't really like the work, and I'm not a great fan of being recognised. It's psychologically, I like being on stage and I like doing the job, and I'll easily perform. I'm happily perform in front of 3,000 people. That's fine, but there's something about TV, because if somebody's seen you live and they come up to you, you've got the same frame of reference about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When they've seen you, what they've seen, and you can talk about that. If somebody's seen you on TV, they're an absolute stranger, and they've got an idea in their head about who they are, and they come up all excited about like, hey, like I'm friends with Matt Lucas, and Matt, you go out with Matt and it's a nightmare. He's very good about it, but people are just coming up to him all the time, shouting, hey, Arsenal this, and it's just like, you don't know who's going to ambush you with. So
Britain, wasn't it? That when that came out, Little Britain, wasn't it?
It was massive.
It was. It still is now. Really. I still watch it back now.
Mm. But you probably only watch the racist stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
don't think it's racist. I don't think it is racist anymore. But it's got a lot of flack. It got a lot of flack for I think they had some characters that blacked up.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? So you're probably wondering why I've actually got Barry on, like, as I'm in the fitness industry.
Because I'm buff. It's because I'm really buff. You can't see it, but my God, I've got the body of a god.
So obviously you've listened to the podcast of ours and you probably heard about different stories, different people on. I wanted to go down more. For me, I think the reason why your job's the hardest job in the world for me is I would never have the nuts to go on stage. Because when you're up there, people expect to be funny, don't they? Expect you to be funny. And I always think confidence is created and not given. So I think you have to create that confidence and somehow. People always say comedians are naturally funny, but there has to be some sort of confidence that is created somewhere for you to get on stage in the first place, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
Were you always confident?
Well, it's funny because everybody's got a different response to it. It's like, you know, you talk a lot about psychology in your emails that go out and stuff. And you know what? If you're thinking about doing it too much, you think, oh, I've got to be way more confident. But if it's just what you do, you don't think about it. You just get up and you just do it. You know, there's no should I or shouldn't I. You're just like, well, I've got to do this. Like, I've never really doubted whether it's what I should do. I mean, I've kind of, you know, had to work at stuff and sometimes you get a bit nervous, but not really, because it's like, you know, if it's what you do, you've got no choice. You have to bloody do it.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like that. It's a little bit like, yeah, there's no other choice. But what's interesting is that a lot of people, when they see stand-ups, they're not a stand-up. They're not a comedian. So they're looking at it from a position of like, oh, I'm a, you know, I don't know, I'm a doctor. But oh my God, imagine being on stage having to make people laugh. I couldn't do that. No, of course you couldn't. You're a doctor, right? Like, you know, and I would be terrified if I suddenly knew that I had to deliver heart surgery on someone. Just like, I can't do that. That's not something I could do. It would absolutely make me shit myself. So I think a lot of people view stand-up as something that because it looks, all you're really doing is standing on stage talking. It looks accessible, and you're like, so you can imagine yourself doing it, but you know, it's like it's a job. It's like anything else, and like anything else, I could become a surgeon, but it would just take a huge amount of time, effort, and energy to do it. And it's the same with stand-up. Like, if you put a year of your life into trying to, you know, write stand-up, get on stage, do it, you wouldn't feel as nervous at the end of that year. So, you know, you're basically getting anxious about making yourself go 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, you know, to get on stage and be funny. But, you know, it's something you can learn. It's like any other skill. One day, you know, you could easily do it, mate. And as I've said before, I'd be quite happy to fling you on a stage at Angel, see how it goes, record it, make sure it goes up.
I guess it's all like people see like Matt Lucas and yourself and other people as you on the stage. They don't realize all the little mini things they've done to get there, right? It's the same as like our industry. People have got an awesome transformation, but they forget all the hard days and the bad gigs and the good gigs and the ones they've been heckled off stage and the ones they've got back on stage. I guess, do you remember your first ever gig? Do you remember what you did for your first ever gig?
Yeah, I mostly had puns. I was on stage for my first ever gig. I was very nervous beforehand, but it never occurred to me not to do it. I remember I had one joke that, like, some of the jokes I just said too fast and they didn't get, but I had one joke, which was, I went, all of them were puns, right? So I'm 16, I'm just thinking of double meanings and stuff like that. And it was, I was walking in the woods the other day and I saw some frog spawn, right? I picked it up and read it, and it was a load of pictures of naked toads, that kind of thing. It was like, it just wasn't for me, you know. So it was as I said, it was a bad pun, but that got a huge laugh, and then after that, everybody just was on board.
Yeah, you know? It just takes one joke, then I guess. Then that's it. You've got the audience, isn't it? And
also the other thing is, I was saying, you know, like when you're 16 on stage and you look about 12. Like the audience are with you anyway, you know. And I was talking about, you know, going out and as a 12-year-old looking kid going out and, you know, being a pimp and like I've got a load of prostitutes if anyone wants to, like just acting like that, and people found that very funny.
Do you find it easier the more you do it now? Like how old are you now? Like 31?
Yeah. I'm actually 24, mate. But I've been doing it. Yeah, I've been doing it for at least 3.5 years now. Since I was 16. But it does get easier in the sense of it gets easier and harder though, because you have to constantly change. It's like, I'm going to try tying things back to fitness, but it's like what you can do as a 20-year-old where in fitness isn't what you can do, and the way your body metabolizes food isn't what you can when you're 40. You've got to like eat differently. You've got to make sure that you exercise differently. You've got to warm up. It's tedious. You've got to warm up when you're 40. You don't have to warm up when you're 20. You're just like, I'm ready to go. And it's a little bit like that with, stand up, not in the sense of, it's not like you get worn down or anything, but you've got different ways of working, and you might be high energy on stage as a comedian when you're 20, but it's different when you're 40, or you see somebody that's like 60 or 70 and they've just got a totally different vibe. Like I once met, I was doing some gigs in San Francisco and I met this guy called Mort Sahl, right? Mort Sahl is one of the most iconic comedians in the world. Like he was one of the first comedians. Like literally, he invented the art form along with Lenny Bruce in the 1960s. And he was still doing gigs at the age of 87. So like I was at this theatre, and it was a theatre that Robin Williams played at a lot. I was supporting this guy called Mark Normand, who was in a TV show called Hanging with Mr. Cooper. I don't know if you ever remember that TV show. But it was a huge global hit, and it was the precursor, or it was the thing that came after Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Anyway, Mort Sahl was full of anecdotes, and that's what he did on stage. Because when you're 87, you're just like, listen, I've got this extraordinary life where I wrote for JFK. I was part of the Warren Commission when JFK got shot. I was in the, I used to write for Reagan. I married a Playboy bunny. He married the first Playboy bunny. That was yeah. I mean, and he's just got this extraordinary life that he's talking about meeting all these iconic people, and he's being very funny, but he's just like, well, what else are you going to do at the age of 87 if you've got such an iconic life? Nobody really wants to hear about you burning your toast that day. Everyone wants to hear about when you met JFK and you kind of deputized for the Warren Commission,
Yeah, good work. I read that. I've got loads and loads of this, but one thing I want to know, I always find heckles funny. I sent you a video, didn't I, last week? I always find heckles. Yeah. I always find them funny. And I guess it's like, it's the stumbling blocks, isn't it? And you can relate that to so many different things. But I think when you're on the stage and someone heckles you, you've got to act quick, haven't you? What's the best heckle you've had?
Well, the thing is, heckles these days they're not as witty as they used to be. They used to be really witty. Like, you used to have heckles like, there was this guy that was a mime that I saw come on stage, and it's all quiet, and he's doing a mime on stage and people aren't really enjoying it. And then somebody just shouts from the back, hurry up and fucking say something, I'm blind. Okay? Or there was a guy called Jim Tavare, who you might know, who's on America's Got Talent, but he had a great heckle once because he comes on stage with a massive cello, and somebody just shouts, "Fuck off, you midget with a violin," but the worst type of heckles is when somebody's just drunk and they just keep interrupting, and there's nothing funny about it, but they just won't shut the fuck up. Yeah. I once had a woman that was just interrupting the whole time, and you'd be funny at her and you'd kind of get everyone else against her, and you do everything, and at the end she'd ruin the show, and at the end she comes up and goes, well, you're welcome. I was like, what? She goes, I made that show funny, didn't I? It's like, no, you ruined it for everyone. Like, but in her head, she was a great part of the show. And I think that's, people often ruin it and have got no idea that they're ruining it.
I remember going to a gig of Kevin Bridges.
Oh yeah.
he walked off stage because he got heckled so much. There was
Yeah.
a bunch of pissed up lads and they heckled him so much. He walked off stage. They ain't doing this anymore. He walked off stage.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you can't do it.
if somebody's at you and they're shouting at you, you can't kind of like, and it's like any job. You remember, stand up looks like, just because you're saying something, it's it's really accessible. We all say things every day, but it's still a job, and you've written stuff. So it'd be the equivalent of getting heckled as a surgeon. It's like, you call that the main artery? That isn't the main artery, mate. It's like, no, it really is the main artery. No, mate. You wanna move over and go the other? No, that's the aorta. I don't want to touch the aorta.
So I guess we've spoken about, like, you've got some great time management stuff, haven't you? We spoke about it in the past.
Oh, yeah.
I guess like lockdown for you has changed your whole business quite a lot, but you still must write all your material at home. So the thing that I found the hardest is still having motivation to do stuff during this whole last year. I think for me, I created so many habits, daily habits, that sort of almost keep my motivation there. I'm going to do stuff that I enjoy. I enjoy what I do for a job. I speak to people that I enjoy talking to. I train people I enjoy training. So the motivation sort of isn't, I don't need motivation. But for you, I guess you write your material at home anyway, I guess, do you? So if you found it hard with motivation, I know you've got some awesome, I can't remember what you said to me, is that it was a time management tip, wasn't it? You said it's a 30-minute one, isn't it? Do you find that helps your motivation to actually write stuff, or do you have days where you go, fuck this, I can't be asked today?
Well, yeah, I'm not very good at going, fuck this, I can't be asked today, because like there's no other game in town. You just got to keep on working. If you don't keep on working, you get really depressed. It's like, I know that there are some people that just can watch Netflix or or just chill out, and I've never been, that gets to me. But the way, I think one of the things that I mentioned to you was the Pomodoro technique. It comes Pomodoro is the Spanish word for tomato, and it comes from like a tomato timer. So you set the timer for a specific amount of time, usually about 20 minutes or 30 minutes, not too big, not too small. And the reason why it's an effective way of working is that often, if you've got tasks to do, they're too big. You're like, I can't write this book, or I can't, write this entire script, or I can't, or I've got to write an entire show, whatever. But, or, it can be anything. I've got so many emails to answer. I've got to do the entire garden, or whatever it is you've got to do. Yeah. But if you set yourself half an hour to do it, with an alarm that goes off at half an hour, it's a manageable, attainable amount of time. So so I'll set that timer and go, listen, I'm just going to do half an hour of this. And that makes it, oh, right, great. At the end, I'll decide whether to do another half hour. But it's like if you're doing, if I'm exercising, often, when I was into kind of doing more press ups, I'd be like, you know what, I'll just do one press up. And it's like, once you get down there, you've done one, you're like, well, I may as well do another one, you know. But
you just get started, isn't it? You just get started on something.
Yeah.
Motivation turns up, then it almost every time, doesn't it? Like you said, you just do one press up. Actually, as I'm here.
Another thing that you're great at is accountability, like something that I think it's really hard. Like, so I get good work done because I often make sure that I have accountability partners. So like other people that I need to do work for, or I'm working as part of a partnership. So we do that. I don't know if you know much of the psychology of accountability, but there's some great things there about I've forgotten who it was, but there's at Stanford, there was this professor that was figuring out the doctor that was figuring out how to make sure people do things like losing weight. And what one thing that he found out is that in his dissertation students, if he said, listen, I don't want your money, but as part of, I've noticed with dissertation students that they do all the work in the last month. They get really stressed out. Whereas if they did 1,000 words a month, it'd be, a cakewalk, be easy. Yeah. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to give me 1,000 words a month, but to make sure that you do it, right, I want you to sign a check for £500 for each month. And if you don't hand it in, right, I'm going to have a party with that money for everyone. It's not just for me, but we're going to throw a party with this money, right? And it's a lot of money. They couldn't, and all of the students handed everything in because like they just didn't want to lose the money, and certainly they didn't want everybody else kind of just spunking their money on a party.
Oh yeah.
But, you know, I know somebody else who's got a great accountability partner that he goes, listen, if I'm over this weight at any point, if we meet up and you can ask me to weigh myself, right? And if I'm over this weight, you've got a check of mine for £5,000, right? That much.
No way.
And you can cash that amount of money, right? For an organization that he doesn't like. So it's not, his friend doesn't benefit from it, but it like goes to the KKK or something like that, right? So he's just like, no, I am not going above this amount. But you tie yourself in. It's really interesting. It's like for comedians, it's often like you've got a show at the Edinburgh Festival and you know you've got it there and you know people are going to show up. So you have to do it. Otherwise, you're stood on stage with your dick in your hand going, well, this is all I got, mate. This is, you know.
That's exactly. I think like I said, I keep every client accountable. So I keep myself accountable. So without like, I got a big list of stuff to do today and I've written timers by the side of it. And I sort of adopted that technique from you, I guess, mate, because like I've got like, I give myself hour slots normally, but so I got, once it's gone, I put that task to one side, I get another one. And I also scheduled in like train times. If I don't schedule in my train time, I don't train. I scheduled in times to go home. If I don't schedule in times to go home, I will stay here.
Yeah.
Like it's having different. So I keep myself accountable, but I think having an accountability partner, like you said, works even better. And it's almost having someone to keep you to what you said you're going to do. So if you're going to lose that stone, someone says, "Oh, you've done it. You've done it. You've done it. You've done it." It's keep on at you. Yeah, I keep myself accountable, and I think having lists throughout the last year has helped me massively. And there's so many people that have sort of haven't had stuff, haven't had accountability, haven't had lists, and they've gone way off ball. I've got friends that are within the same industry as me, and they've like let their businesses go. They haven't been able to keep themselves accountable. They can't adapt to change. I think adapting to change is huge, especially in your industry as well. Having like a heckle, what do they call them?
Heckle.
Well, yeah. So I think that's massively important, having that accountability for absolutely sure. I think that sort of goes into everyone's world, doesn't it, really? It's massive. So I actually got on a confession to make as well. Oh. I actually missed your show last night. I actually missed it because I was out.
Well, what do you mean out? It's lockdown, mate.
Oh, well, yeah, that's all right. I wasn't out. I was just busy.
Where did you go? What did you do?
I can't say it's incriminating on camera, isn't it?
What were you doing out at night?
I was just going for a walk.
Dodgiest confession I've ever heard. Listen, I couldn't see your show, mate, because I was out committing crime. That's what I was doing. I was. Did you see the I don't know if you saw this, but like one of my favorite things about living down here is the what's it called, the North Devon Journal, right?
Oh yeah.
Because you get some amazing stories. Actually, this is from the Gazette, right? I don't know if you can see this. All right, I'm going to put it up to the camera. But the headline, can you see the headline?
I can. Yes, shocked with widow finds drunken sailor asleep in her home.
Yeah, like what kind of that is a shocked widow wakes up to find a drunken sailor in a drunken sailor has been jailed for breaking into a widow's home in the middle of the night before cooking himself breakfast and falling asleep in a front room. That's what you were doing last night, wasn't it, mate? Let's face it.
Right? I'm not a sailor.
The thing is, right? I mean, it's a shitty story because there's this 87-year-old that thought she'd left the oven on, and she comes home and there's a trawler, like a skipper, like this in her bedroom. But I mean, like the sea shanty. What do we do with the drunken sailor early in the morning, right? It's literally the embodiment of that song.
What do you say?
Well, what happened is she fled the house and took refuge with a neighbour, and the police arrived to find the intruder still drunk, right? That he had wet himself and ruined the living room carpet, right? Which is why I thought it might be you, right? And he had no memory of breaking in through the kitchen door or of cooking and eating breakfast and a banana. I don't know why he gives that information. Breakfast and a banana, right? And he blamed a mixture of alcohol and, this is inverted commas, bad Valium. I don't know what bad Valium is, right? But you know, like, just the idea that, I mean, it's so North Devon. It's so, like, you know, I live in Ilfracombe. It's on the coast. Just a load of, what do we do with a drunken sailor early in the morning? Well, you know, you flee the house and you get the police to deal with it.
Smash them banana. Brilliant.
But anyway, yeah, I know you're out doing that kind of shit at night. Don't pretend you're not.
So I know you did a sitcom as well, haven't you? So Barry's obviously, the comedy club's closed at the moment until May, isn't it?
Yeah, so, well, May or June, I mean, who knows when this roadmap, but we made so because the comedy club was closed, I don't, you know, you can't put a bad man down. So it's just like, what can we do? And obviously I know James A. Caster, all these kind of people that are well known. So Adam Buxton, Nina Conti, who was on the gig you missed last night as well. Nish Kumar, Ed Gamble. They were wondering where you were, Chris. Nish Kumar was just like, listen, I got sacked a few days ago. I'm really interested as to where Chris is. But who else is in the sitcom? Tim Key, Jamali Maddox. And so we decided to, like, you know, the club itself doesn't have any income, but it has fixed outgoings. And so one way of supporting the club, we're like, you know, we want people to support us. Like, even £3 a month helps us, like, pay our rent and, you know, while we haven't got anything coming in. So, like, what can we give people? It's like, right, we'll make a sitcom. So I produced and directed a sitcom with somebody called Simon Weeks. Simon Weeks has made some stuff with Charlie Brooker. He's a great, you know, he did most of the editing, to be fair. Or I did a load of the editing, but it wasn't as good or as fast as he does, because he does it professionally. So, and yeah, and it's great. Like, this week's one is Adam Buxton is an AI that takes over the Bill Murray. So, and it's good. I'll send you a link if you like, and you put it up somewhere.
You watch them online, right?
Just join the Patreon.com/Angel Comedy, and it's only £3, and you get like 6 episodes of the sitcom. You'll get to see the club. You'll also get, like, you get access to early tickets. Like, we've got Stuart Lee and Nish Kumar and Eddie Izzard. You can get early access to tickets and stuff like that. So you get stuff.
I'll put all these in the show notes after. I'll put all the links.
It. Professional, yeah. Great making a sitcom. Oh, we've also got, you know, the people that everyone loves. We've also got the guy from the older guy, the uncle from like Mobeen. Yeah, what's it called? Do you know Mobeen, the sitcom?
No.
All right, doesn't matter. You might recognise him anyway. He's from Jack Ice's show as well.
So when's your next one? I won't miss this one. When's your next live gig? How the hell do you do a live online comedy gig?
Say that again.
How do you do a live online comedy gig? You've got an audience.
It's just like this. You have an audience. If you were there last night, you would have seen. Yeah. Basically, it's like having a massive Zoom screen, and you've got some people that are like the front row, so you see them on the screen, and other people that are just watching. So you hear the laughter of the people that are there. It's all right. I mean, you know. Yeah.
I bet that's a bit weird, isn't it? Going from a stage with 3,000 people to a Zoom with a front row seat of people.
Yeah. It is. You know, but it's a different thing. Like, on those gigs, like last night, I told the story about how I accidentally bought crack cocaine. Like, it was a total accident. I was living in London, and I won't tell the story. But hey, no, it's a 10-minute story, and but I don't take drugs. But it's but I tell stories more on Zoom gigs, because, like, you can't really go joke in the same way, because it doesn't hold up in the same way. It's a little bit too dry. So I'll tell a funny story about, you know, my life or something like that a bit more.
Yeah. Who is the most famous person in your phone book right now? Who is it?
Well, I got this was about a year ago now, but I kept getting a phone call, you know, kind of ringing, and I was like, I don't pick up calls unless I know who it is, because it could, you know, it's either somebody trying to sell you something or somebody that wants to have a chat that you don't know. And but then I got a text like, Barry, pick up, it's Eddie Izzard. But like, I've got I've just got everybody's phone number in my, like, name any comedian and I've got their number in my phone. Like, it's because you've either gigged with them or, you know, they've been on at the club, like whether it's Matt Lucas or Russell Howard or like Mark Maron or I don't know. I've got Louis C.K.'s number.
Nice.
So yeah, but yeah. Like,
so,
why do you want to know that? That's disturbing. Why do you want to know, like, who's the most famous? Have you cloned my phone in some way? Is that what
yeah, who can you message? Who can you message right now on your phone? I always ask. Like, he's the most famous person you have. So yeah, it's cool. So
who's the most famous person you got on your phone, Chris?
Probably Wayne Large, maybe.
Wayne Large. Yeah.
I haven't got any famous people actually. No one on my phone list.
You make it sound like top trumps, mate. Like you're collecting famous people.
I've got Barry Ferns on my phone.
So right, well, apparently he knows everyone.
He knows everyone, Barry Ferns. So anyone listening to this, when's your next live gig? So I can put it on here. When's your next live comedy gig? They actually attend. Obviously at home now, everyone's bored as fuck at home, got nothing to watch. So when's the next live one?
Well, your next one I'm doing is Saturday week, so it's the 20th. It's called it's at the Angel Comedy Club on the 20th. I think tickets are like £5, and it'll be a great show. We've got some great up and coming comedians at that, and that'll be our next one.
You watch it online?
You can watch it online. Yeah, you can't. You're not allowed to watch it in any other way. It's illegal. So yeah, you can only watch it online.
I'm doing illegal things last night, so obviously I'm allowed to do that.
What were you doing last night?
I'll get off camera in a minute.
That is so dodgy.
Isn't it? Perfect, Barry. Thanks for coming on, mate. Thanks for your ins. I know you're a very busy man, so I'm not going to let you go now.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate.
Well, it's good. No, thank you, mate. I mean, you run a good ship there. Like, it's you know, I think that I do a lot of reading for the work that I write in neuroscience and behavioral economics and behaviorism, and you know, a lot of the stuff that you apply for the training is up there with the best of them, you know. And I you know, so I recommend you to everyone, like, you know, like whether it's my dad or whether it's, you know, somebody else, a working mum that needs kind of like a little bit of accountability or just a bit of help, you know, like, but you're up there. Like, I've worked with a load of different people, and you're as good as anybody, you know, like if not better.
I find your dad funnier than you though.
Top of your game, hey?
I find your dad funnier than you.
Yeah, my dad is funnier than me. Yeah, right.
He's funny. I could be the trainer for all the comedians, mate. Can I? I could be like the trainer's comedian.
You could do.
Yeah. Maybe I should use this stage to tell Wayne that I'm moving up with you now. Wayne, yeah. I'm leaving Amsterdam. I'm going on with Barry.
You'd be all right. You'd be good on stage, mate. I think you'd do your own head in, but you'd be funny on stage.
We'll have a deal now. I'll come on stage.
Yeah.
And I'll work out what the exchange is in a minute.
Yeah. Maybe it's something to do with what you were doing last night, mate.
Yeah, you take the back for me last night, and I'll come on stage.
Well, you know what? I was thinking it would be a fun thing. I could run a gig down here, right? And we could have you doing your first ever stand-up gig, and I could train you, right? We could do an exchange, right? I'll train you. If people listening want this to happen, right? I'll give Chris, like, you know, 4 or 5 lessons. We'll do an exchange with, like, you training me, like workout stuff. And we will get you on stage for your first ever gig, right? We'll set a date and we'll make it happen. You know what? And I'll be quite happy to do Wayne as well. Get both of you on bloody stage, right?
You used to be on stage. Wayne used to be a comedian.
Did he? Well, in which case, right.
I've never seen his tape.
We'll get him back up here. We'll get him back up. Let's see how good. Let's see whether the action meets the mouth. He keeps saying.
What was I watching? I was watching Russell Howard. That was it. I know I'm going off tangent. I still finished in a minute. I know you're really very busy, Barry, but watching Russell Howard, and he had the Zoom things up, and he had this. Everyone coming on telling stories about the most worst thing that's happened to them during like the last year. Everyone's saying that they've lost their jobs, or they're having a sort of a hard time at home. This one guy come on and went, my parents, not of COVID, his parents died a couple of years ago, and his mum gave him what he thought was tapes of their wedding. So he thought, you know what, I'll get them done. I'll get them on CD. And you heard this story.
No, but I already can imagine where this is going. Right? Yeah.
Mum and Dad's wedding on tape. I want to get them converted to the disc. Anyway, went to the shop, had them done, got the CDs back, and thought I'll sit down with wife, put the CD in to watch Mum and Dad's wedding. Sex tape.
Yeah.
He said that was the worst thing that's happened to me in the last year. That sex tape, brilliant.
That last memory of them. Last memory of.
I don't know why they had it. I don't know why they kept it. But yeah, there we are. On that note, we'll finish.
Is this what you were doing last night? Is this where you're confessing what you were out doing last night? Yeah. Sex tape. Fair play.
Anyone that wants to know more about Barry's comedy events, sitcom, live events, I'll put them on the show notes, and they'll be on Spotify, iTunes, and I think Deezer now as well, and YouTube, on YouTube as well. So yeah, they'll be underneath each video. So yeah, thanks Barry for coming on.
That's all right. Thanks for being awesome.
We'll sort out this gig as well, and we'll let everyone know.
Yeah, let's make it happen. Come on.
I'll just